In this tutorial, we're going to create an alpha channel to put transparency inside this box so we can see the candy bar through it. The transparency is apparent once we introduce our lighting and our Arnold render view window. Until then, there will not be any transparency in the box. So it's something that you'll have to wait until you get to your renders to confirm whether you've accomplished it or not. To accomplish this alpha channel, we need to start off in Photoshop. So I've opened up my texture in Photoshop and I'm leaving my UV map on for the moment to make a reference area where I want to drop that rounded rectangle. So in Photoshop I want to access the rounded rectangle tool. If I were to hit U on the keyboard, it's going to take me to a tool with some sort of a Bezier element. And the choices are the rectangle, rounded, rectangle, the ellipse, polygon, tool, line, custom shape. And we want the rounded rectangle. Now all I need to do is select it, and in the upper left hand corner on the option window I'm going to make sure that paths is selected. And then I'll click inside my file and I'm going to make a box that is 6 inches by 5 inches. And I'm going to leave the radius by the default. If you want to change that, you can. And now it gives me a Bezier shape. I'm going to go to my layer window and I'm going to introduce a new layer for this. And I'm at the top of my layer order because once we make this alpha channel, we'll save it as a JPEG and then we'll delete it. While I'm still on my tool for Bezier rounded rectangle, I'll right click and I'm going to choose Make Selection. I'll click OK. I'll hit W on the keyboard or M to get a selection tool so that I can move this about. And I'll kind of center it here where I want the opening to be. I'm going to get my default black and white set up on my toolbar, and I can do that by clicking on D or clicking on the little mini me down in the lower left hand corner of the swatches. Once I've done so, I could hit G on the keyboard and fill it with the paint bucket, or in this instance I'll hit Option Delete. If you're on a PC, that would have been your Alt and Delete. Had I made a mistake and hit the Command or Control key and hit Delete, it would be the background color of white. I want the rest of this to be opaque. This will be where the transparency is. So this has to be all white. So alpha channels are any combination of white through black. I could have made this gray and made it less transparent. This is all something you'll decide on a case-by-case basis. I'm going to go to Select, Inverse, and then I'm going to put white in here. Now, I could put my white on top and use the paint bucket, or in this instance I'll simply hit Option Delete. I'll deselect, and now I'm going to save. All I need to do now is to save this out as a JPEG. I'll go to File, Save As, or Command Shift S, and I'm going to go to my folder and I'll name it BOX2 Alpha, and I'll convert it to a JPEG. The next thing I'm going to do is delete this alpha channel now from my main texture, and be sure to turn off your UV map and save. Now we're ready to go into Maya. Now that we're back in Maya, I've gone to my material attribute by right-clicking and choosing Material Attributes. In the Material Attributes, I'm sliding down to where it says Geometry. And if I were to open that up, I can see that there are two options, Opacity and Bump Map. Both are comprised of some sort of a JPEG that is white through black. In this case, I'm going to follow the Opacity tab out to the checkerboard pattern. I'm going to choose File. I'll go to my folder, and now I'm going to look for Box Alpha, and I'll hit Open. Now I'm going to see black on the box for reference here. There is no reference to transparency until we actually get into the render settings. Next, once I've introduced that alpha map, I need to deselect my geometry, select it again, and then I'm looking for the term, the polygon cube shape. And under Polygon Cube Shape, you'll see a tab for Arnold. I'll open that up and I'll click off on Opaque. And when you bring up Arnold, you'll see that you have an opening here. In this case, I've put a piece of candy bar inside of there. Had I not done that, I would have seen the back of the actual box itself. And that is pretty much the way you would put in an alpha channel for transparency inside of Maya.